Jay here, Stretford, Paddock, and we're live with a bit of breaking news. We've had a here we go. Ruben Amorim to Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano has tweeted. I'll read out his tweet in a minute. We've also had an official statement from Sporting Lisbon, Ruben Amorim's club as well, or Amorim. Sorry, I need to stop pronouncing his name wrong. So we'll get into that. Make sure you are getting involved in the chat and the comments. Joe Smith is going to be joining me as well. So first of all, let's just start from the beginning. We'll say the beginning of this sort of little bit of breaking news and go to Fabrizio Romano's tweet. He tweeted 23 minutes ago. Yep. He said, breaking, Manchester United are set to pay the €10 million exit clause for Ruben Amorim to become new manager. Here we go. Sporting confirm formal communication received from United for Amorim to be appointed. Amorim has already said yes to Man United proposal and project. And if I can just go to that actual statement from the club, I think I've got it here, because they've done a statement just basically saying what Fabrizio Romano is saying. They've put out a statement saying Manchester United FC expressed interest in hiring coach Ruben Amorim, and the board of directors of Sporting referred to the terms and conditions provided in the employment contracts enforced between the company and the coach, specifically for the respective termination clause and for the amount of €10 million. Manchester United expressed interest in paying said amount. So sorted. We're going to pay it. They want it. That's the clause. Even if they didn't want to, get rid of him, they can't. They haven't got a choice because that's his clause. And we already know from various tweets from Romano and Onsley and everyone else that he's happy to come to Manchester United. So it looks like United have got their man. Joe, give us your initial reaction to that breaking news.
It's exciting and it's impressive and reassuring that they've done it so quickly, because I think yesterday there was a bit of a vacuum of obviously it didn't last too long, but initially we saw Ten Hag was going, and then we start looking at the lists. Who's at the top of the bookies' favourites? We went through some of them on the podcast yesterday. BBC were putting lists out. Everyone's putting these lists out of potential candidates with 10, 12, 15 names on some of them. And already, overnight, less than 24 hours later, that list has gone down to one name. And I'm impressed by that. Now, you can make a rash decision that's wrong. They could have gone quickly, been assured, been sort of very kind of straight down the line, got their man, and it'd be the wrong guy. But I think there's a lot of reasons to think that won't be the case. And as is always the case with me, I like to look on the positive side of things. And I've doing some research on him in the last 24 hours, really trying to dig into who he is, reading sort of, dozens of articles, watching loads of videos, watching footage of how his team plays, trying to understand who he is, because he's going to be the next United manager. I want to know exactly what he does. I'm very excited. And I think that we're going to see something very different at Manchester United, and not just different to what we've seen at Man United in recent seasons, but different to what everyone else is doing. And that's what excites me, because I think there's been such a emphasis in recent years on basically football management has become how closely can you replicate Pep Guardiola. Like, that's what football management is now. Pep Guardiola, it's almost like he's the most evolved of the football managers, and we're just trying to get as close to him as possible. You look at Arteta as very much a disciple of that way of thinking. There's many other examples of that as well. That kind of, what started as the kind of Cruyff style that's evolved into the Pep style, and people see that as the end goal of football. Whereas Ruben Amorim's doing something a bit different. Yeah, obviously he takes the modern, the modern approach of high pressing, winning the ball back, playing out from the back that Pep does and that all coaches do, but he's not trying to do what Pep does, and that really excites me, because we're approaching things a little bit differently here, and I can't wait till they get started, to be honest.
The video you did about his tactics, about the way he plays, when's that out?
That went out about an hour ago.
Sorry, I'm clued up in it. I've been on other things. So after this video, go and check that out, because I'll be interested to watch that myself, just to see the old, was it 3-4-2-1, is it?
3-4-2-1, 3-4-3.
Yeah.
But again, it's like one of those things where when you're actually playing, it's a 1-2-2-4-2. But not every single thing is drilled into these players.
Yeah.
They have structures and they have ideas. But the thing that he's so good at, that at times I thought United weren't very good at under Ten Hag, is how he understands the opposition press. And at times the way we would play out from the back and get caught and lose the ball, and we'd have these quick turnover goals that we saw against Liverpool. We've seen them many other times in recent years. Amorim seems to have a better understanding of what the opposition will do and how to draw them onto you and then play around them or play through them or play over them. I'm really excited. And again, he was a little bit of an unknown. And I don't want to get into weaknesses and problems straight away, but you can already see in 12 months' time, 2 years' time, he didn't win, winning 2 leagues in Portugal. Is that it? That's not good enough. He'd never done anything in Europe. He's never, he's not managed in England before. He's 39 years old. He's too inexperienced. If this goes wrong, don't worry. There'll be plenty of people telling you that they knew from the start that he was terrible, and you should have seen it coming. But I think there's reasons to be very optimistic about this.
Every single manager Manchester United have had post Alex Ferguson, the flaws have been found once the results have gone against them.
Yeah.
So Jose was sacked at Chelsea. That was the issue with him. We should have seen it coming. Louis van Gaal's best years were 20 years ago. We should have seen it coming. Plus, he subbed his goalkeeper in the World Cup quarter-final, whatever it was. You could see he was mental.
Yeah.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had only won titles in Norway and had been relegated at Cardiff. There's always something. Erik ten Hag had bottled it against Spurs in the Champions League, and he was a bit of a geography teacher. There's always something that comes to the fore if results go against you. So you're right, but looking at his CV, what he's done at Sporting, we've both been talking about it quite a lot. And I think you compared him to Erik ten Hag in the sense that he's the young manager that everyone's looking at.
Yeah.
Just as Erik ten Hag was, I know he's a little bit older, Erik ten Hag, when it was obvious he was going to leave Ajax, but he was like the main man in sort of European football where a lot of people were looking at him. And I think there's a touch of that with Amorim, because he's the one that's been successful over the last 4 years, 2 titles in his 4 years, ending that 19-year drought.
Yeah.
He's the one who everyone knows he's going to move on somewhere. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to go to a United, or he's linked with City, or he was maybe,
There was the whole West Ham
thing,
yeah.
So there's been that. It'll be interesting to sort of see what the reaction is like. But the more I think about it, the more I read up on it, the more I'm sort of warming to it. We'll get in some of the comments, and I'm going to come back to you.
What are people saying?
Horizon says signing Yoro and MDL, Matthias de Ligt, is beginning to make sense.
I mentioned that in the video earlier.
Yeah,
so
maybe even Manuel Agati as well. There's another one of his players. FPL Mikel, who's been a member of the academy for a month. Thank you for your support. Says, is this Barada's work? Surely he had done his own work on Amorim in City before joining United. It's funny because City obviously briefed everyone when it became out obvious that Amorim was going to join United, and was like, well, we didn't want him. Yeah. All that stuff about he was going to come to the Etihad, it's all nonsense. We don't like his style of play.
Shit.
Yeah, he's shit. So
it was proper like jilted bloke that won it.
I said that this morning.
Anyway.
That's exactly what I said in the news this morning.
Like,
it felt a bit like
reports, and there has been for 6 months, that Amorim is one of the names on City's list. He might take over. Now United getting him. We never wanted him anyway. All right, just
why? Yeah, it's like why even brief that? Why just ignore it if that's the case?
Embarrassing.
It did. Was it Hugo Viana? Was it the kid who went from Sporting to?
He's going at the end of the season.
Sorry, he's going from Sporting to so everyone thought it might be the sort of similar package.
Yeah.
Go with him. Listen, I could care less. He's coming to Manchester United, and that's all that matters. Puppy Parade says, hope he does well. Fast forward 2 years from now, Joe is defending him and putting bad results in context and being attacked for toxic positivity.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'll be here, and I'll be telling you why things aren't that bad. Right, what we have right now is a chance to establish who this guy is and what the parameters are here. What I won't accept from anyone for the next 2 years is being told that he is tactically clueless, that he doesn't have a style of play, that he can't figure out big games and big teams. I'm not going to hear it. I'm not I admit not that he's going to be faultless or that he's going to be flawless, but we know this guy is tactically astute. We know this guy has got a style of play. He has done it year in, year out for Sporting Lisbon. If our players and our structure in our club can't adhere to that and can't, do the bare minimum or, match Sporting Lisbon's effort and quality, then I'm not going to blame him for that. Like, if there are mistakes and there are flaws in the systems and the tactics, you can see them and they're clear, and we keep getting sort of found out, that's different. But we saw the other day, was it Paul Scholes or talking about Ten Hag saying this team looks like an uncoached team. If we see time and time again the players going out there looking like they've never even heard of a press or how to play out from the back, I'm not going to blame him, and I'm not going to let him be blamed because our players, or for whatever reason Manchester United can't do what Sporting Lisbon did. There are plenty of reasons to criticise him, but this whole thing that we keep getting around to every 2 years, the players, he's got no tactics, what's the style of play, he's got no tactics. We need to be able to, at some point, realise that the players have to buy into this. And if they don't, then that's not necessarily his fault. And yes, you have to teach them, and part of your job as a manager is to make the players buy in. But why could the Sporting players buy in? Why did the Ajax players buy in for Erik ten Hag? Why did the Chelsea players buy in for Jose? What is it about Man United where you don't think you have to buy into what the manager's doing just because he's not the most charismatic person in the world? Like, you're not going to get Frank Sinatra being the Man United manager, sort of singing to everyone and being charismatic. You're going to get a football manager who's probably a bit of a nerd. Like, what do you want? You have to do the job anyway.
Exactly.
Sorry,
No, don't apologise. Any Frank Sinatra reference gets my thumbs up on this channel. Old blue eyes there. I was very impressed with that one. Absolutely love Frank. Parag says, I'm scared to be excited for a new manager anymore. I get that, but I'm the other way around. I'm always excited for a new manager.
Yeah,
even when they got Mr. Gegenpressing, who I'd never heard of. Your mate there, Stephen Howson, sat on a brew and basically told me off for not understanding how impressive this appointment was and how amazing the Gegenpress was and for being stupid.
And did the players buy into that?
40 minutes against Palace.
Exactly.
Callum Bryant says, with Ten Hag's contracts expiring at the end of the season, do you think we already had eyes on Amorim to replace Ten Hag, but we were forced into pushing it forward due to results? It has happened very quickly. I think that's a very good question, Callum.
Good point here as well from Kenny. Reminder that after United, Rangnick had Austria playing a definitive style. These players are, insulting word there, but he did. You go to the World Cup and Austria's style of play was one of the most defined and difficult to beat in the tournament. They were excellent in the group stages with a smaller nation without many stars, and that's because Ralf Rangnick isn't thick. He's not an idiot. Like, I just think,
I also think he benefited as well. I agree with what you're saying. Having that longevity with the Austria squad, having a little bit more time. It was like you're coming in at United in the middle of a season, and it was like just turning it around to a completely different style than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was very difficult.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it's, quite high energy sort of pressing style. So it's not like you can just go, okay, well, we're already physically able to do this. It felt a bit like, you're right, there was obviously pushback from the players or just didn't buy into it. I don't think he did himself a huge amount of favour with some of his tactics, some of his personnel choices, but also the players just they weren't feeling it. Whether you could see they looked at him and thought, it's like, I think you called him a supply teacher at the time.
Yeah.
It is. It's like, this guy's going to be gone soon. Let's just doss about. No one cares. He's not going to tell the headmaster.
Yeah, I'm not doing my homework. Yeah, he won't be here by the end.
That's exactly what it was. Akash K, good to see you in the chat again. Says, I feel Amorim will get extra protection from player power as he's Ineos's choice. I'll back the choice, but concerned about the wingers playing this system.
That's a really good point, and
that's
where
explain that to me. Why is that a good point?
Because that's where Ineos now have to show that they're good owners and that the people they brought in are good. Because one of the issues that we've had, and I said this yesterday about how all these great managers have failed at United because the structure wasn't there.
Yeah.
The club wasn't set up properly. Now you've got an ownership that needs to make sure that there is no excuses whatsoever for the players not buying in. And that's where they're going to have to make their money now, because Amorim is a good manager, certainly good enough to take United to the top four with a couple of signings or whatever. If they can't do that, and if he just doesn't get the players buying in, I think you have to look at Ineos and how they put pressure on the squad and what their standards are as well.
Yeah, I agree. Dan United 94, I'm not reading that out. That is filth. Unbelievable. Do you know what? Is that filthy? My computer's just crashed.
It's crashed.
Can you read that one there? That little.
Yeah, Peter Knight says, every time we shop in Lisbon, we take a W. GGMU obviously talking about Ronaldo, talking about Bruno Fernandes. Also, by the way, listen to an interview with Ruben Amorim with your eyes closed. It is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Really?
They're not just that.
What, literally?
No.
All right.
Not just the fact that they're both Portuguese, obviously, but their tone of voice.
They all sound the same, do they?
Well, no, because Bruno doesn't sound like that. Their whole tone of voice is so similar.
Really?
It's really, really similar.
I like that.
I'm sure if you're Portuguese, you would know that the accent changes
it's
and
a
stuff,
slight,
but like
yeah.
his voice kind of pitch and everything is very.
I'm loving all the
Ronaldo.
pictures of like Amorim when he played for Braga, was it, against Johnny Evans?
Yeah, and against
Christian Eriksen. And it's like, there's all these pictures, he's still a young man in it. Yeah, it's mint. V says, hugs and kisses to Sporting again.
What do you make of this, Jay, of less of the manager himself and more of how Ineos have conducted the sort of the search and the getting rid of Ten Hag and the search for the new manager?
See, I'm in the minority that this sounds like a complete contradiction, and people just saying, "Oh, you're just saying that because you backed him." I think there was nothing wrong with giving Ten Hag this season. I got it. I wanted him to be given the opportunity this season, so I'm not going to pretend I didn't. Mm-hmm. I understood why they would have said, "Okay, you've won back-to-back trophies. Let's see if you can improve the league form." So it makes sense to me that they let him do that, and when the wheels came off, they went to their plan B, and it felt like they did have a plan B. It felt like they were ready to go. had Ruud van Nistelrooy been the caretaker for the next 3 months, you could have gone, well, they just panicked, they didn't know what they were doing. But it felt very much like they went, okay, we'll give the kid a chance to prove that he can build on these trophy successes by pushing on in the league. And if he doesn't, then this is what we're going to do. There's €10 million buyout clause there that we can afford. Let's make it happen. So I don't think Ineos have made a sort of a hash of it. I understand it. I think the only area I think Ineos kind of made themselves look a bit silly was all this interviewing Tuchel and everyone in the summer.
Yeah,
I think they shouldn't have done that. I think they should have just left it and gone, right, look, let's just get behind this kid, see if he's the right man, and if he isn't, then let's go and approach whoever. But I think the whole interviewing all these managers and then going, actually, we've settled on the best one, which is you, was just stupid, and it made them look stupid. Abhinav Verma says, congrats Bruno Fernandes on becoming manager. Yeah, I think you've read that one. Parag says, hope Eric buys Anthony from us for his new club. Sloppy Joe's, love that Tactics Explained video.
Thank you very much.
Who's that?
Don't know.
He wants to be Joe McGrath, not Ethan.
Ethan, it should be it. The doctors. If he's logged in as Sloppy Joe's commenting on this, sending monies or spending money.
Wow. That's even
money.
Worse, spending your money. Yeah. Martin McCulloch says, when are we getting confirmation of... I can see what you're doing there, and I'm not going to read it out.
Amorim job.
Yeah, he's, very clever. Tina to Lefson Toka. If Ruben Amorim fails, this will all be on Ineos. Ruben is their manager, but what with PSR and FFP?
Here's another thing about that, though. Like, even the best owners don't just always get the manager spot on and, like, you win a league title.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's any human on earth who knows for certain who will win the next Premier League with Manchester United. Like, he might be the best person available right now. And unfortunately, we found ourselves in a position where we probably had to get rid of our manager, and he was the best one about. And he might be good enough to win a league title, and he might be here for 10 years, who knows. But, like, you can't necessarily just say that Ineos are a disgrace if he doesn't. Obviously, if he's a complete failure and the tactics never stick and he's fallen out with people from day one and it turns out, he's got a history of anti-Rashford tweets or something, like, then you might go, what were you playing at? But, how can... Ineos can't predict the future just because they're wealthy and they've been successful before. No. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to set the structures up properly, and let's hope they've done that. But I don't know. I don't think it's either we win the Premier League with Amorim or Ineos are crap.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can't just... It's football. It's a sport. It's not... You can't write the story.
I think he's got a difficult... I know it's a massive understatement. He's got a difficult job, but this team hasn't been scoring goals, and we need a goal scorer. Now, he's done it in the past anyway. He's worked with players and got the best out of them, and got them scoring goals. Who was the kid he got? Was it from Coventry or someone?
Yeah, Gyökeres.
Yeah, who he got from Coventry.
Slamming in a goal a game, basically.
Yeah, and who just became the second coming of Ruud van Nistelrooy. So maybe he can do that, but it is going to be hard because you're looking across this team and you see there is a lack of goals there, and this is a problem he's got to fix, and he hasn't got a transfer window for at least a few months, even if then we can do any business, because we know FFP and PSR, whatever you want to call it, is a real thing. So that's a big headache he's got to solve.
Just on the PSR thing, I was listening to Talk of the Devils last night and just watching the newspapers and Sky Sports and stuff, and people were saying this thing about it's not expected that this 10 million fee will be an issue. However, United do have to consider their PSR things. Like, this whole, we should be able to afford to get him. And you think, well, fucking course we should. Yeah. Like, what's the alternative? Oh, we're just not going to have a manager anymore. Like, what? Like,
we can't afford it.
United, luckily, they managed to scrape enough money together to buy this, to pay for this guy's buyout clause. You think, well, what else? We just sacking Ten Hag and not having a manager ever again.
Do you know when you're in,
we have to.
Like the lower league, or even like League Two, whatever, and some teams who going into administration will have half a bench. Yeah. And they'll have a couple of 16-year-olds on the bench because they physically haven't got any money to pay more than 14 players. Yeah. I think that's going to be United. We won't have a manager in the dugout. It's just we're letting Bruno pick the team.
PSR wise, we couldn't get a new manager. We sacked the old one and just left it. Like, no offence, United, but I'm not giving you a pat on the back for being able to afford to sack the manager that you didn't have to keep 6 months ago. Yeah. Like, yeah, great, we've got enough money for a new manager. That's the bare minimum. That's literally like saying I've got a front door on my house. You have to have a manager. And what else did they think was going to happen when they sacked the last one?
Why am I seeing Joe McGrath walking around with a pumpkin?
Because
that's why I want to know.
It's Ruben Amorim's a pumpkin boy.
Oh. Buzz Miholnir
excited.
says, can we all agree right now that this has to be different this time? We have to give the new manager 4 years before we start melting down. Just on that, right, before you jump in.
Go on.
Right. It doesn't work like that.
I know.
It's like, I know it. I get your idea, and I love the ethos of let's just get behind him no matter what. If Ruben Amorim comes in, right, and in, I don't know, 6 months' time, loses every game for 2 months, you're not going to go stick with him because you got to. You will, because you're off your head. But
I'm sick.
like,
I'm sick.
It depends on results. He has to do well. I get the idea that, you know, if results are a little bit dodgy but okay, stick with him. Don't just panic and go, well, we've lost 2 games out of 4, let's sack him. But you have to wait and see what happens, because it's easy to say, let's just get behind him. I've said the same about David Moyes. And, you know, there's I don't think there's footage of me, but McCall got a bit of stick because he's like chanting every single one of us will stand by David Moyes. I was singing it. Everyone was singing it. We all had Fergie's words ringing in our ears about your job now is to stand by this manager. And we all did, to a point.
For 5 months.
Yeah, until it got to like drawing at home to Fulham when you're 2-1 up with a minute to go and losing away at Everton and just getting battered and all these teams coming at Old Trafford and breaking the record of the first win they've had there for 30 years. Then you go, hang on a minute, he's not the guy. Yeah. So I'm not saying that'll happen with Ruben Amorim. I hope it doesn't, but I'm just saying it's easy. To say let's just get with him. Jed's Dead Baby says, so does Rue still take tomorrow's game? I assume so. I think so. Glenn F says, I'm totally with you, Jay. Eric Ten Hag has to be the unluckiest manager ever, and I think he would have come good, possibly. Someone else said me calling everyone kid is funny, or calling Ten Hag kid. I pretty much call everyone kid, to be honest with you.
It's a very mank thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't mean he's a child.
If you're watching this, hit like on the video. Manchester United look like we've got a new manager.
Do you know what I'd like to say? And no one likes to talk about this in football, but I'm going to. I just hope he's a bit lucky as well.
Yeah.
Because like someone Glenn mentioned lucky. Like you can be a bit lucky as a manager where you don't have many injuries or you get the 50-50 decision goes your way. Because it does. I'm not saying it was all that luck with Ten Hag. Ultimately, he wasn't good enough. But there were so many things that could have gone one way or the other that went the other.
Yeah.
And it's like the only time we had that one that went our way was Coventry in the FA Cup semi-final, where that could have gone either way, and you probably wouldn't have, you know, been able to say, oh, it was a travesty or whatever, and it went our way. Other than that, though, Jesus wept. It was like the injury record was terrible. You know, some of the decisions were shocking. It just felt like everything went away from him.
Can't put the ball in the back of the net. They make loads of chances and never score. Like it is just. Like, and then the VAR, the last game sort of sums it up, doesn't it? His players don't score, and then just when you think, right, we might get a draw, but we can push on last few minutes here, stoppage time, get our winner, all of a sudden we've been given a penalty against us that couldn't be less of a penalty if you tried. He needs a bit of luck. Managers need a bit of luck. Like, you just do. And I think, like, you know, look at Tuchel at Chelsea, for instance. It was a bit lucky that, as you always mentioned, Pep didn't play Fernandinho or Rodri in the Champions League final. There's a nice bit of luck mental. For you. There's a nice bit of luck.
That is almost like what is going on. Has anyone checked his bank account?
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? Other than I just think it was pure hubris from Pep to say, I'm going to win this final in a way that no one else on the planet would win it.
Yeah.
Because no one else on the planet would have dropped Rodri.
No.
Certainly not dropped him and Fernandinho. Like, would have had no defensive midfielder. And even the players were like, what is going on? And I remember I could not believe what was going on. I was chuffed because I'd rather Chelsea win it than say. But that was insane. Yeah. So, yeah, I completely agree. Simon Reynolds, without looking, who is older, Amorim or Cristiano Ronaldo?
Aren't they the same? Aren't they both 39?
Yeah, but one of them's older, not twins. And even twins, one of them's older. So
older. It's going to say what minute they were born on Wikipedia.
Well, it does actually, if you put it in GPT. Right, have you just looked then at the date of birth?
Well, they're both 39, aren't they?
Yeah, but
so they're the same age.
Yeah, but who's...
I know Ronaldo's is, I think it's February 1985, isn't it?
You just cheated. Right, so who's older?
I used to know it from the Top Trumps.
Who's older?
I would guess then it's Ronaldo.
He's younger, Ronaldo, by 9 days.
Ronaldo is 9 days younger than our new manager?
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that right? Because maths isn't a strong point.
Yeah. For all intents and purposes, they're literally the same age, aren't they?
Yeah, like that is...
He's the same age as our, well, one of the last players to leave the club. That's mad, isn't it? Ronaldo's playing for us 18 months.
Hit that like button, please, people.
Yeah.
Over 4,300 people watching. We haven't even got to 1,000 likes. In case you're playing catch up and loads of people have just joined us, I'll go through the news again. Fabrizio Romano tweeted 47 minutes ago, breaking: Manchester United are set to pay €10 million exit clause for Ruben Amorim to become new manager. Here we go. Sporting confirm formal communication received from United for Amorim to be appointed. Amorim has already said yes to Man United proposal and project. There's a cheeky little picture there as well from Romano where he's put Amorim in a United tracksuit, which is quite clever. And said statement from Sporting says, I'll go to the nuts and bolts of it. It says Manchester United FC expressed interest in hiring coach Ruben Amorim, and the board of directors of Sporting referred to the terms and conditions provided in the employment contracts in force between the company and the coach, specifically for the respective termination clause and for the amount of €10 million. So basically they've said, look, if you want him, you better pay this dough. And then it says, the second part says, Manchester United expressed interest in paying the amount in said clause. So Sporting have said, well, you're not having him unless you pay €10 million, and United have gone, right, fine.
Isn't law detail speak so boring and crap? Manchester United expressed forthwith the intention to...
You can tell they're all getting... You can tell lawyers get paid by the hour, can't you?
Lawyers decide everything these days. Lawyers rule the world.
Like, they get paid by the hour because they'll use a million sentences one will do.
They've said they'll pay $10 million for him. Sign here if you're paying it. Fuck off.
Just put out statements saying United will come up with a dough.
Yeah.
Like, literally. Like, do you know what I mean? That's it.
Don't worry, I've got it.
Yeah, we've got that dough sorted.
Yeah.
That'd be enough. We'd get it. We'd know everything else. You don't need to put all this forthwith and said. And
it has been
pertaining
to
Section 1, Subsection 4, Paragraph 3. Fuck off.
Lawyers ruin everything.
They do, unless you're facing a jail sentence and they get you off of it.
Not that kind of lawyer, though. The paperwork lawyers.
Paperwork lawyers can bore off.
Yeah.
King in K says the thing of tallying mistakes of Ineos is stupid. Literally, there needs to be grace. Name one football ownership group without flaws. Even City's football ownership group's got a lot of flaws.
Yeah.
But
they're going to have flaws and they're going to make mistakes. We have to look at their body of work over a number of years, not just each decision and review them immediately. Like, I think so far they've done a lot of good things at United. Maybe they shouldn't have given Ten Hag this season, but I wouldn't say that. I think they should have, and you agreed before, Jay. So I don't think they've done that much wrong. You've got to look over a year or 2 or 3 years, because you can't just twist and turn everything upside down overnight, even with all the best intentions in the world.
You can't. Given how quickly this is happening, I wonder how long this has been in the works, says Zret Gupta. Yeah, it does feel like this is obviously... It doesn't feel like they've gone, after the West Ham game, should we sack him? Yeah, I think we should, All right, let's sack him. Who are we going to get in? I don't know, man. Who's that kid in Portugal? He's doing well. Yeah, let's give him a bell. It feels like they've been planning.
Sorry, the kid McFly there says 2 years from now, you lot will call for his head too.
Make your mind up. Someone else was just pointing out the fact that Joe backed Erik ten Hag right until he got sacked, and now you're saying we'll turn against this manager straight away or in 2 years' time. Which one is it? They both can't be true. We either back managers or we don't. You can't be toxically positive and also anti-managers. That's not a thing.
People want us to be a certain thing, and we aren't necessarily that thing.
We aren't. Do you know
and
what?
Also, we have different opinions to each other on things. Like, we disagree on managers and how long they should be here and whether.
Yeah, like I'm pretty liberal, and you're like a massive right-wing racist.
Yeah. Also, Tom Robinson, if I can have some of that cash back, I didn't expect you to go guilty straight away, which is weird because I sent.
Is that why you was so kicking off the other day?
Yeah,
saying you skin and that.
That's the one.
Well, maybe if you weren't spending all the sloppy Joe's money on super chats, you'd have more cash in your pocket.
Yeah, that's possible, isn't it? What are your thoughts on what you know about him as a manager? Because obviously, I guess since yesterday,
I've become the foremost expert on.
Yeah. What do you make of him? Do you like this idea of Man United playing 3-4-3? Have you got any memory of United ever doing that? It's never been a thing in my lifetime. In the Premier League era, only really Conte has had great success with that formation.
Can I be that basic again? I'm sorry. I know I am that guy. I know my arguments are always the basic one, and I'm like, no. But we've got you for analysis and tactics, and Steve's a bit of a geek as well, and he does all that. And I'm just a bit more like, I don't know, I go with me out a lot of the time. I like the way he carries himself in press conferences. He seems like he's got a certain charm and a certain charisma. I know it can go out the window if you start losing football matches, and it's easy to be all jovial when your sporting team has won 9 out of 9 in the Portuguese league and has conceded only 2 goals and scored 28 in the process, whatever it is. 30, sorry, in the process. So that's all easy. But he does seem he carries himself well, he comes across well. I quite like the idea he's very young. I quite like the idea you've got a manager who knows what it's like to be in a dressing room with players who are earning 100k a week, or roughly that, who knows what it's like to play in the Champions League and be in this era, who knows about that and has also got some experience as a manager. He's like straddled both lines there, because he's not just become a manager like 18 months ago. He's been managing for a little while.
Yeah.
And he's worked his way up. Was he at Braga for a spell, smashed it, got to Sporting, and he's also had that period as well, which I quite like, of doing well and then having a little bit of a lull where
I
it was
think
like,
they finished fourth the season before
they did.
last.
Where I think a year ago, me and Harvey were talking about this earlier. It was on the news because he'd been asked about the United job a year ago. It was literally like the 3rd of November 2023 or something. And on the news, I was saying, like, at the time, I was talking about the fact that the previous season, or after he'd won the league, I don't think they made the Champions League. I think it's different in Portugal. I think Fourth doesn't make the Champions League, or they scraped through the ad, I'm not sure. But either way, they'd not retain the title. They'd not sort of, maintain that high standard. So it's like, okay, but then he did. He came back stronger than ever to retain the title and to be flying again. I know it's only early doors. You don't know what's going to happen in Portugal if he'd have stayed, but there's a good chance he would have won the title again. Also doing very well in the Champions League. So I like these things about him. I like the fact that there's a bit of resilience there. There's a bit of progress there. He's got charisma there. He knows what it's like to be a modern footballer, and also his achievements, because we're very, very quick to dismiss it, aren't we? Of like, oh, it's only the Portuguese league. Well, why didn't any of the other managers who've managed Sporting? And also, he got there just after they lost one of their best players in Bruno Fernandes and won a title. Like, that's not easy, is it?
And it's their first title in 19 years. Like, they're one of the biggest clubs in Portugal, but they hadn't been winning things for a generation. What are you laughing at?
Joe McGrath has done a super chat. It says, Smith chokes on Jay's Willie. What's that all about?
Don't read that out.
Don't read that. What that was stupid. It's a super chat. You've got to read it out. £1.99 as well. All right, big spender. Jesus wept. FBF1 Sports says, new boss played with Lindelof and Haaland. Better watch out. Rasmus is coming for that golden boot. This is the kind of comments that I love. I'm going to leave it there. Wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone.
Very exciting, Jay.
Oh, wait a minute. Parag says I didn't read out his super chat.
You fool.
Oh, sorry. Would Ruud van Nistelrooy still be assistant under Amorim? Would he?
We don't know yet, do we? I would doubt it, but if anyone's going to stay, I think it'll be him, just because of his stature at the club, the fact that you want someone to maybe kind of help understand what you're coming into, because it's a beast of no compare really, Man United. So you want Van Nistelrooy to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. So if anyone's going to stay of the current coaching setup, I would assume it's Van Nistelrooy. Also, just on the manager as well, just before we wrap up, I think that we said this yesterday. I do think United fans get behind the manager by and large. I think that is a thing, and I think that everyone sort of hammers United fans and points out some, especially the ones on social media that turn against managers. It usually comes to a point where there's a reason for that. It's not just like people go, we give up with a manager, United fans, after a month or whatever. I think by and large, especially in the stadium, you will get people backing a manager and getting behind him and being supportive. So, sort of well into the tenure. I mean, a year, 18 months is a long time, and especially when the results have gone against you. So I'm buying into this idea, and there's a few of the comments saying like, oh, United fans will turn against him. I think if you look at the reason why people sort of fell out of love with Erik ten Hag, the league form had deserved. The league form had been terrible for over 12 months.
That's what I mean. It wasn't an overnight thing.
I mean, I was never one that called for his head or said that he should go, and I repeated a lot I would give him this season just to prove himself and because we've extended his contract. But even I can accept that if you wanted Ten Hag to leave last week, you're not mad. You're not unfair or harsh. We've been awful in the Premier League for 14, 15 months. That's not good enough. So I get it. I don't think we're particularly harsh compared to other fan bases. And there's more of us than there is anyone else.
Yeah.
So you're going to get varying opinions more so than anyone else. But I think generally speaking, we're quite forgiving United fans.
We are. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Thanks to everyone. In fact, can we put a little, before we wrap up, subscribe link in the chat? Before we wrap up, I'm going to put a subscribe link in the chat. Just this season, because I want to just do that while Eastman's doing this. What are your expectations now? Because he's coming in, basically we're a quarter way through the season, aren't we?
Yeah.
As it stands, and we don't know, but we could still be in the Carabao Cup when he arrives, unless the wheels come off tomorrow night. In the Europa League, it's almost impossible to get knocked out this early in the game, so we're still in that.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got the league and the FA Cup to come. What would you? I know it's a difficult question because he's not arrived yet, but what would sort of your expectations be for this manager coming in?
Just spend this season teaching the players how you want to play.
That's it.
That's all I care about.
Okay, so you're not bothered about it. You're not going to go, if we finish 7th, get rid or anything
Don't
like
care.
that. I know that's not your nature anyway.
Not bothered. And not even because it's my nature and I want to play into that. I literally don't care. Like, the fact that 2 years and 4 months into Ten Hag's tenure, people were going, what's his style of play?
Yeah.
And I think there was a style of play there. But the fact that it wasn't apparent to everyone, it can't happen again. Amorim, come in, stick to your guns, do what you always did at Sporting, be yourself, make Manchester United work around you, and teach the players how to do it. The results will come. You know, we're not. I don't think we're going to get relegated regardless. The players I think are just too good to get relegated. Just spend this season getting them playing your way. That's literally all I care about.
Fantastic. Just finally, Moon81 says, our main front three ain't good enough. We can change managers as much as we want, but until we address the goals, we won't progress. That's an interesting point. I was sort of talking about this before. Also, there's a subscribe link there in the chat. Subscribe to the channel. Want to get to 800,000 subscribers. We've had a lot of subscribers over the last couple of days. Appreciate your support as always. Go and check out Joe's video on Ruben Amorim and his tactics and what we can expect. Also, go and check out the Sloppy Joe's podcast. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Marty. This has been a bit of breaking news. Ruben Amorim to Manchester United. Here we go. Thanks for watching.